Let me tell you something. Talent is a gift. It's a blessing. Some people are born with it, some people aren't. But talent alone, talent won't take you where you think it will, because talent will only open the door. Discipline keeps you in the room. You see, everybody loves the spotlight. Everybody wants the applause, the recognition, the title, the fame. But let me tell you the truth, what you do in the dark. That's what decides what happens in the light. When the cameras aren't on you, when nobody's cheering for you, when nobody's watching, that's when discipline steps in. Talent doesn't wake you up at 5 a.m. Discipline does. Talent doesn't keep you in the gym when you're tired, when your body says enough. Discipline does. I've seen talented people quit. I've seen gifted people give up when it got hard. But the disciplined ones, they keep going. They push past tired, they push past doubt, they push past fear. Why? Because discipline doesn't depend on how you feel. It depends on what you decide. Talent is an advantage. Sure, it gives you a head start. But hear me. If you've got discipline, you can catch up. You can pass talent. Discipline is consistent effort. It's focus. It's the ability to do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it. And the truth is, most days you won't feel like it, but that's when discipline wins. Everybody wants success, but nobody wants sacrifice. Everybody wants the prize, but they don't want the process. The process is not glamorous, it's sweat. It's grind, it's showing up day after day, even when there's no applause, no likes, no followers clapping for you. Discipline is lonely, discipline is quiet, discipline is unsexy, but discipline delivers. So if you're sitting there thinking talent is enough, wake up. Talent will get you noticed, but discipline will make you unstoppable. Talent might make you good, but discipline will make you great. So ask yourself, are you willing to do the work? Are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to keep showing up when nobody believes, when nobody's watching, when nobody cares? Because if you're, nothing can stop you, not talent, not luck, not circumstance, nothing. Why? Because talent might set the stage, but discipline writes the story. Talent is something that often feels like a natural blessing. People look at someone who sings beautifully, runs like the wind, or paints like a master and say, they were born with it. And in many cases, they're right. Talent is a gift, but it's a fragile gift. It gives you a spark, an initial edge, a head start in the race of life. But that's all it is, a start. Too many people believe that talent alone guarantees success, that being naturally good at something means the world will roll out the red carpet. But that's not how it works. Talent without effort is like a car without fuel. It looks good sitting in the driveway, but it won't take you anywhere. The reason talent isn't enough is simple. Talent can make you comfortable. It can make you believe you don't have to push harder because you're already ahead. It can make you rely on what came naturally instead of what needs to be built. And when life gets hard, and it will when challenges show up that talent alone can't handle, that's when people who only leaned on their gifts start to fall behind. Because talent does not teach perseverance. Talent does not teach resilience. Talent does not show you how to keep going when everything in you wants to quit. Discipline does. The world is full of talented people who never made it to the top. Why? Because they didn't understand that talent opens the door, but discipline keeps you in the room. Discipline is what shapes raw ability into mastery. Without discipline, talent is like clay left untouched. It has potential, but it never becomes anything more than a lump. You can be the most talented athlete on the field, but if you skip practice, if you don't train when it's hard, if you let your gift carry you instead of your work ethic, someone with less talent But more discipline will beat you every single time. It's easy to admire talent, but you need to respect the grind behind greatness. Every champion, every leader, every top performer knows that talent is just the invitation. Discipline is the commitment. Talent can get you through the first chapter, but it will never finish the book for you. The people who rise to the highest levels aren't always the most gifted. They're the ones who decided that being gifted wasn't enough. They showed up early, they stayed late, they worked when nobody was watching, because talent might give you a voice, but discipline teaches you how to use it. Talent might give you speed, but discipline teaches you how to pace yourself. Talent gives you a gift, but only discipline lets you keep it. Discipline is the force that sustains success long after the excitement of talent has faded. When someone is naturally gifted, it can create a false sense of security, a belief that talent alone will keep them at the top. But success is not a one-time achievement. It is a continuous journey that demands consistency, resilience, and unwavering commitment. This is where discipline becomes irreplaceable. Discipline is what turns a moment of glory into a lifetime of greatness, because talent can open doors, but it is discipline that keeps those doors open. The truth is, the world doesn't reward talent alone. It rewards persistence, hard work, and the ability to show up every single day with the same energy, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable. Talent makes the beginning exciting, but as soon as the real work starts, talent alone can't carry you through. You can be talented enough to get noticed, to make a splash, to attract attention, but if you lack discipline, you won't stay relevant for long. The spotlight doesn't stay on people who stop growing. The applause dies down, the cheers fade, and what you're left with is the work. If you're not disciplined, that's where you stop. Think about the people who succeed at the highest levels for decades. They didn't rely on talent alone. They relied on habits. They relied on structure. They relied on discipline. They trained when they didn't feel like it. They studied when they could have been relaxing. They practiced when nobody was watching, because they understood that talent gives you an edge, but discipline gives you endurance. Without endurance, success is temporary. The biggest trap for talented people is believing they don't have to work as hard as everyone else. At first, that might even seem true because their natural ability puts them ahead. But the moment competition rises, the moment the challenges become tougher, the gap closes. And when talent meets someone who has been disciplined from day one, talent loses every single time. That is why discipline is more important than talent, not just for achieving success, but for sustaining it. Discipline teaches you habits that talent never will. It teaches you time management, self-control, and consistency. It builds mental strength, the kind that doesn't crumble when things get hard. Success is a long game, and talent is just a short sprint. Discipline is the marathon runner that outlasts everyone else. No matter how much talent you start with, if you don't pair it with discipline, you will eventually lose to someone who simply refused to quit. Because discipline doesn't just help you reach the top. It ensures you stay there when everyone else falls away. The real measure of greatness is not in the moments when everyone is watching, but in the quiet hours when no one is paying attention. Discipline shows up in those unseen moments, the times when there is no applause, no recognition, and no immediate reward. This is what separates those who succeed temporarily from those who achieve lasting greatness. When the lights are off, when the audience has gone home, when social media isn't capturing the moment, that's when discipline steps in and does the work that talent alone cannot do. It's easy to perform when the crowd is cheering. It's easy to put on a show when you know people are watching. But those moments are rare compared to the endless hours of preparation that happen behind the scenes. Athletes don't become champions during the game. They become champions in empty gyms at dawn, lifting weights when nobody is clapping for them. Musicians don't master their craft during a concert. They do it alone, practicing scales for hours that no one will ever hear. Those unseen hours are where discipline lives. Talent loves the spotlight because talent thrives on instant validation. But discipline doesn't need validation. Discipline works in silence. It doesn't demand attention, and that's why it's so powerful. Because when the moment comes, when the opportunity arrives, those quiet hours speak louder than anything else. People will call it talent when they see the result, but the truth is, it was discipline in the dark that made the difference. The challenge is that no one celebrates those hidden efforts. No one posts about the early mornings, the late nights, the sacrifices you make when nobody notices. And because of that, many people stop. They get discouraged because the results don't come fast enough, or because nobody appreciates the grind. But the disciplined ones understand that the unseen work is the most important work. It's the foundation everything else stands on. This is why discipline outweighs talent. Talent might make the performance look easy, but discipline is what makes it possible. Every extraordinary moment you see on stage, on the field, or in the spotlight is built on countless ordinary moments that were invisible to the world. And those ordinary moments require discipline, the choice to keep going, to keep practicing, to keep pushing even when you're tired, bored, or uninspired. The truth is, the lights will always go off eventually, the cheers will stop, the recognition will fade. But the habits you build when no one is watching, the consistency you maintain in private, that is what determines whether success lasts or slips away. And only discipline can carry you through those hidden hours that nobody sees but everyone notices when it counts. There will be days when you wake up and you feel unstoppable, full of energy and excitement. Those are the easy days. Motivation is high, the fire inside you is burning bright, and everything feels possible. But then there are the other days, the ones when you're tired, when life feels heavy, when nothing inside you wants to move forward. Those are the days that separate the dreamers from the doers, and those are the days when discipline steps in, because discipline does not depend on feelings. Discipline is about commitment, not convenience. Motivation is temporary. It comes and goes like the weather. Some mornings it shines bright, other days it disappears completely. If you build your life on motivation, your progress will be inconsistent because motivation is emotional and emotions change. Discipline, on the other hand, is solid. It's a decision that stands even when your feelings don't agree. Discipline says, I will do it because it needs to be done, not because you feel like doing it. That is the difference between people who succeed and people who stay stuck. They don't wait for the mood to be right. They don't wait for inspiration to show up. They move forward whether they feel ready or not. When you rely on feelings, you'll skip the workout because you're tired. You'll delay the project because you're not in the mood. You'll quit because the excitement wore off. But when you rely on discipline, you do it anyway. You lace up your shoes when you'd rather sleep. You study when you'd rather relax. You show up and deliver when everything inside you says, take a break. And that habit of pushing through, of showing up regardless of how you feel, is what builds strength that talent never could. The truth is, the world does not care about how you feel. Results don't care about your mood. Deadlines don't wait for your motivation to come back. Life rewards consistency, and consistency only comes through discipline. Every successful person you admire has faced days when they wanted to quit, days when nothing inside them felt like pushing forward. But they did it anyway, not because they were motivated, but because they were disciplined. Discipline is the bridge between goals and reality. It's what takes the dream and turns it into something tangible. Feelings will lie to you. Feelings will tell you to stop, to slow down, to give up. But discipline speaks louder. It reminds you of the promise you made to yourself, and it holds you to that standard even when your emotions try to pull you away. And when you look back, you'll realize those moments when you acted without feeling like it. Those were the moments that defined your success. Over time, discipline outperforms talent because consistency beats intensity every single time. A talented person can shine brightly for a moment, but someone disciplined can keep shining for years, even decades. Talent may give you an initial lead, but it does not guarantee the finish line. What happens when the competition gets tougher, when the challenges grow bigger, when the excitement wears off? The truth is that talent often stalls because it relies on natural ability, but discipline keeps moving because it relies on habits. And habits never take a day off. When you look at the most successful people in any field, athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, they are not always the most gifted. Many of them started average, but what separated them was their willingness to show up day after day, regardless of how they felt, regardless of who was watching. They understood that slow progress, repeated consistently, will always beat bursts of effort followed by long breaks. A talented person without discipline might work hard when they feel inspired, but the disciplined person works hard whether inspiration is there or not. And over time, that steady effort compounds. It creates mastery. It builds skill. It transforms average into extraordinary. The problem with talent is that it often creates comfort. If you are good at something naturally, you can perform well without much effort. That makes you complacent. You start thinking you can skip practice, that you don't need to prepare, that you can rely on what comes easy. But sooner or later, someone else will show up. Someone who started behind you but refused to quit. Someone who didn't have your natural advantage but had relentless discipline. And that person will pass you because they built strength and endurance that talent alone never gave you. Discipline is like compound interest. The small, repeated actions don't seem like much in the moment: waking up early, practicing an extra hour, choosing to learn instead of wasting time. But over months and years, those choices build unstoppable momentum. Talent, on the other hand, does not compound. It stays where it is unless you nurture it. If you neglect it, it fades. It's like a muscle that atrophies when unused. Discipline ensures that your abilities don't just stay sharp, they grow sharper every single day. That is why, in the long run, discipline wins. It outlasts moods, it outlasts obstacles, it outlasts doubt. A talented person who lacks discipline might impress for a season, but they cannot sustain excellence. A disciplined person, even without great talent, will keep improving until they surpass those who relied on gifts alone. Success is not about who starts fastest, it's about who refuses to stop, and the one who refuses to stop is always the one who understands the power of discipline. Success sounds glamorous when we talk about it, but the truth is it comes with a cost that most people are not willing to pay. Everyone wants the glory, but very few are ready for the grind. The reason discipline is more important than talent is because success requires sacrifice, and discipline is what allows you to make those sacrifices. Talent might get you in the game, but it will never carry you through the pain, the long hours, the difficult choices, and the moments where comfort has to be traded for progress. Sacrifice is the price for anything worth having, and discipline is the currency that pays that price every single day. People love the highlight reel. They see the finished product, the medals, the awards, the lifestyle, and they think it must have been easy for those who are gifted. What they don't see are the countless moments behind the scenes where hard decisions were made, skipping parties to train, waking up before the sun when everyone else is sleeping, choosing practice over comfort, preparation over pleasure, growth over excuses. None of those choices happen because of talent. They happen because of discipline. Discipline tells you that the temporary pain of sacrifice is worth the long-term gain of success. Sacrifice is uncomfortable. It feels like losing in the moment. It means saying no when your emotions scream yes. It means delaying gratification when the world is offering you instant pleasures everywhere you look. And that is why most people quit. They can't see beyond what they're giving up to what they're building. But the disciplined mind understands that sacrifice is not losing. It's investing. Every time you choose to work instead of waste time, you invest in your future self. Every time you push through fatigue instead of giving in to rest, you strengthen the muscle of perseverance. Talent does not prepare you for that. Talent gives you confidence, but it doesn't give you grit. Discipline does. Grit is built through hard choices, and every sacrifice strengthens your ability to endure. The truth is, if you want something extraordinary, you cannot live like everyone else. You cannot do what is easy and expect exceptional results. You have to give up things, sometimes comfort, sometimes security, sometimes even relationships that hold you back. And only discipline makes that possible, because discipline keeps you focused on the bigger picture when your feelings tempt you with shortcuts. In the end, success is not a reward for talent. It is a reward for sacrifice, for those who were willing to trade what was good for what was great, for those who gave up ease for effort, for those who put in the work long after others quit. That price will always be too high for someone who only relies on talent, but for the disciplined, paying that price is the very reason they rise. Discipline is not about doing something big once in a while. It's about doing the small, necessary things day after day, no matter what. This is what creates consistency, and consistency is what builds greatness. Everyone wants success, but very few people want the routine, the repetition, the unglamorous grind that comes with it. The truth is, big results are the product of small efforts repeated consistently over time. Talent might give you a burst of brilliance now and then, but bursts do not build legacies. Only consistent action does, and that comes from discipline. Think about any skill you want to master. Whether it's playing an instrument, building a business, writing a book, or excelling in sports, you don't become great by practicing once a week when you feel like it. You become great by showing up every day, even when you're tired, even when you don't feel inspired, even when nobody is watching. That daily commitment compounds over time. One day of effort won't change your life, but 1,000 days of disciplined effort will. It's not exciting, it's not dramatic, it's steady, quiet, and often boring, but that's exactly why so many people quit. They can't stay consistent long enough to see the payoff. Talent can make the work easier at first, but it can also make you complacent. If you're naturally good at something, you might think you don't need to put in the same hours as everyone else. And for a while, that might even seem true, but the gap will close. Others who commit to daily improvement will eventually surpass you because their consistency keeps them growing. Meanwhile, talent without discipline stagnates. It never reaches its full potential because it doesn't have the fuel of consistent effort. Consistency is also what builds trust, not just with others, but with yourself. When you consistently do what you said you would do, you start to believe in your own reliability. You develop confidence because you know you can count on yourself to show up. That kind of self-trust is powerful because it turns goals into non-negotiables instead of wishes. And again, that only happens through discipline. The reality is that the most successful people are not always the most talented, but they are almost always the most consistent. They keep working when others get distracted. They keep showing up when others lose focus. They don't need everything to be perfect. They just need to stick to the plan. Over time, those small, repeated actions separate them from everyone else. It's not magic, it's not luck. It's discipline applied consistently, and that's what turns average effort into extraordinary achievement. Talent can feel like a powerful advantage, but the truth is that it is temporary if you don't protect and develop it. Natural ability fades without effort, and the edge you once had can disappear if you take it for granted. That's why discipline is permanent. It does not depend on what you were born with, but on what you choose to do every single day. Discipline does not weaken over time, it strengthens. It becomes a habit, a way of life, and because of that, it gives you something talent never can: control over your future. A person who relies solely on talent often becomes complacent. They start to believe that what came naturally will always be enough. At first, that confidence may even seem justified because talent can carry you for a while. You can win without much effort. You can impress without much preparation. But sooner or later, the challenges grow bigger, the competition gets stronger, and the standard rises higher. When that happens, talent without discipline begins to crumble. It's like a muscle you never train. It weakens and eventually fails you when you need it most. Discipline, however, works differently. It's not something you inherit. It's something you build. And because you build it through repeated choices and consistent effort, it becomes stronger with time. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, every time you keep your promise to yourself, you reinforce that strength. That's why discipline doesn't fade, it compounds. The longer you practice it, the more natural it becomes, until it's no longer a struggle, but simply who you are. Talent cannot guarantee longevity, but discipline can. Think about the difference between someone who burns bright for a season and someone who shines for a lifetime. The first person depended on what they had at the start. The second person depended on what they were willing to become. That willingness comes from discipline, not talent. Discipline gives you consistency, and consistency keeps you relevant, prepared, and improving. Talent can be beaten by time, but discipline works with time. The more time you give it, the more powerful it becomes. This is why talent, no matter how impressive, should never make you feel secure. If you do not pair it with discipline, it becomes a liability rather than an advantage. It can make you overconfident, unprepared, and vulnerable. Discipline, on the other hand, makes you humble enough to keep working, no matter how good you already are. It keeps you learning, growing, and moving forward when others stop. That is why discipline is permanent. It is not a gift, it is a choice. And as long as you keep making that choice, it will outlast any talent you started with, ensuring that your success does not just happen once, but continues for as long as you're willing to put in the work. Discipline is the quality that makes a person unstoppable because it builds strength that talent alone can never provide. Natural ability may give you speed in the beginning, but it cannot sustain you when the road gets hard, when the challenges multiply, and when the excitement fades. Discipline, however, is like armor. It prepares you for obstacles, setbacks, and failures. It gives you resilience, the ability to keep moving forward even when everything around you says stop. This is why discipline is more important than talent. Talent makes you look good for a moment, but discipline makes you relentless for a lifetime. When you have discipline, you develop habits that create momentum. You don't need motivation to push you because discipline becomes your automatic response. You wake up early not because you feel like it, but because it's what you do. You keep training, keep learning, keep improving, even on the days when nobody is watching and nobody is cheering. Over time, that kind of commitment creates an unstoppable force because nothing outside of you can control your progress. Your growth no longer depends on luck, on mood, or on circumstances. It depends only on your willingness to keep going, and that is something discipline guarantees. Talent cannot give you that. Talent is fragile. It works best when things are easy, when conditions are perfect, when success seems certain. But life doesn't work like that. Life throws obstacles, delays, and disappointments your way. In those moments, talent is powerless without discipline. How many gifted people quit when things got hard? How many talented athletes, artists, or entrepreneurs failed to reach their potential because they lacked the staying power that discipline provides? The truth is, talent without discipline will always lose to perseverance. Discipline doesn't just make you consistent, it makes you adaptable. When plans fail, discipline pushes you to find another way. When progress is slow, discipline keeps you moving forward, one step at a time. When critics doubt you, discipline reminds you that their opinion doesn't matter, only your effort does. And when fear creeps in, discipline silences it because you've trained yourself to act regardless of how you feel. That level of control is what makes you unstoppable. The most dangerous person in any field is not the most talented. It's the one who refuses to quit. That person is fueled by discipline. They don't care how many times they fail, how long it takes, or how uncomfortable it gets. They just keep showing up. That persistence creates results that talent alone can never match. Discipline builds character, toughness, and focus. It removes excuses, kills procrastination, and turns ordinary individuals into extraordinary achievers. That is why discipline doesn't just help you win, it makes it impossible for anything to stop you. Once you've decided where you're going, talent might set the stage, but discipline is what writes the story because it controls every decision, every sacrifice, and every moment that determines the outcome of your life. Talent can introduce you to opportunities, but discipline is what makes sure you are prepared to seize them. A gifted person can get a standing ovation once, but without discipline, that moment becomes nothing more than a memory. Discipline is what turns moments into legacies because it takes raw potential and transforms it into mastery through consistency and effort. When people succeed, others often call it luck or natural ability, but those who live it know the truth. Behind every success story is 1,000 choices nobody saw. The choice to wake up early instead of sleeping in, the choice to keep going when quitting felt easier, The choice to practice when there was no applause and no reward. Those choices come from discipline, not talent. And those choices add up. Each one is like a sentence in the story of your life, and over time they create a narrative that talent alone could never write. Talent can make things easier at the start, but it does not define how the story ends. The ending is decided by habits, by perseverance, by the willingness to do what others won't. Discipline gives you control over that ending. Without it, the story becomes short and unfinished, a burst of potential that never lived up to its promise. With discipline, the story keeps building. Every chapter becomes stronger because you refuse to stop writing, no matter how hard it gets. The truth is, success is not about the big, dramatic moments. It's about the daily grind, the repetition, the unseen hours that most people overlook. Discipline thrives in those hours, and that's why it matters more than talent. While talent waits for the spotlight, discipline works in silence. While talent hopes for inspiration, discipline creates results through action. When the big moment finally comes, the world sees the performance and calls it talent. But the real author of that story was discipline all along. Life does not hand out victories because you were born gifted. Life gives victories to those who keep writing their story through consistent action. Discipline is the pen that never runs out of ink. It writes when you're tired. It writes when you're doubtful. It writes when you feel like you have nothing left. And that persistence is what ensures your story is not a single bright moment, but a long and powerful narrative filled with achievements. Talent might make the first page exciting, but only discipline can make the entire book worth reading.